TV Toastmasters. My name is Rick Barron, and I'm the Vice President of Public Relations. Welcome to our club meeting, those here in our audience and those out there in either TV or YouTube land. We've got an exciting meeting scheduled today, a little bit different than what we typically do, but yet inspirational none the same. If you're sitting out there and you're wondering, how can I get in on the action in TV Toastmasters, you can come visit us the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. or the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. at the Anderson Center, 7850 5 Mile Road. You can learn more about us at www.tvtoastmasters.com. I would now like to introduce our Toastmaster for today's meeting, Ms. Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer and fellow Toastmasters, and our most welcome guests at home. My job today as the Toastmaster is to keep the meeting running on time. Being summer, we are having a meeting with most of our people away for the weekend. So the go-to people are here putting this meeting together and keeping it on track so we don't miss meetings. And I think we'll have a good meeting tonight. We have three parts to the meeting. We have a word of the day so that we can increase our vocabulary. We have a Tabletopics master. We learn how to speak in impromptu speaking, and I'm the Tabletopics master today, and when I call on you, I will ask a question and call on someone, and you will have, from the time you leave your seat, to come up here to be thinking about some clever answer. And then we go to the prepared speeches. We will have two speakers today. Rick Barron, who just opened the meeting, is one of them, and I'm the other one. And then we will have the best part of what Toastmasters is, I think, is the evaluations, where you get immediate feedback on what you could do better and what you do well. And then we have the reports from the grammarian and the timer. We don't have a timer. Oh, yes, Richard is our timer today. Okay, thank you, Richard. I forgot to write that. I will now start the meeting with our word of the day from Richard, and Richard Gant, he's one of our newer members. If you would please welcome Richard to the lectern.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Our word of the day is blandish. This is a verb meaning to coax or persuade with flattery or cajole, or to act or speak in a flattering or coaxing manner. So as we'll see later in the meeting, this may be very appropriate. It is a verb, so it's I blandish, you blandish, he, she, or it blandishes. I don't know how they blandish, but I assume I just said it correctly. Thank you.
We will be also counting the ahs, ums, and the other killer filler words. I didn't know that I blandish. I've been told that I could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. Thank you for that great word. We will challenge is to use that when we're up here at the lectern. As a Tabletopics master, I ask a question of you, and then I call on someone to come up and answer the question. The question today is, my first question today as the Tabletopics master is, what do you do when things don't go the way that you thought they should go? How do you cope with that? And I would like to ask our guest, Paula, if she would come up and tell us how she copes when things don't go the way she thought they would.
Thank you, Madam Tabletopics Master. How do I react when things don't go the way that I want them to? Sometimes I'm panicked, sometimes I'm not. It just depends on the day. But what I try to do is take a step back, think about what I'm doing during my time, and then come up with a good plan. I am a planner by nature. I'm a list organizer, so my very first thing, I would probably sit down and write down on my list what exactly is happening and how I'm going to make a change in my day. Normally then I have to change the other list because now my day is not going the way that it is supposed to. After that, I then start an action plan by getting the people in that I need in order to make it work. An example of that is any day at my job. My job, I start out every day knowing exactly how I'm going to go, and by 7:15, my day has changed. Doesn't take very long at all for my day to change. And so then I have to work with that person and come up with a new plan. And by doing that, I'm not only helping myself get through my day, but I help my people get through the day, which is where I'm a manager, and it's the most important part of my job. How do I help them get through their day? And so that is actually how I work on it. And then at the end of the day, I then can sit down and look at my list. I'm a very list maker, as I've said. I love to check things off. And so that is how I end up with my day, with a very checked off list. Madam Tabletopics Master.
Thank you for that great answer, Paula, that you take action. Very good. Thank you. My next question is, how do you react with these crazy drivers out on the road? How do you react? Richard. Looking at you, I can't think of the name.
Thank you. How do I react to crazy drivers on the road? Well, I'm a human being. Screaming in frustration is a part of my coping mechanism. Oh, there was a great. But screaming in frustration is a completely fruitless, pointless way to handle it. After all, it does nothing else except to get my blood pressure up. The person driving away is probably doing the same thing at me, because everybody knows they're the best driver on the road and everybody else is a screaming lunatic who should be locked up and have their license revoked. So, my current coping strategy is to just try to leave on time, so I have plenty of time to get there without having to worry about what the other people are doing around me, because it doesn't matter if they're having the temerity to drive 55 miles an hour when it's 55 miles an hour the speed limit, or to want to slow down because they don't want to plow into the car in front of them, or any one of those other frustrating things where they're doing what they're supposed to and I don't want them to do it because I have to get to work. How dare they stop me from getting to work? Why don't they know that I'm important? So instead, I turn my iPod up, I listen to my podcasts, I listen to music, and I don't worry about it. Thank you. No.
We always
Still getting the hang of this
turn
part.
control of the lectern from one person to the other, generally with a handshake. My last question of the day is, how do you react when someone says something hurtful to you? Rick Barron.
Thank you, Carol. Difficult question. When someone knowingly, willingly lashes out at you. And in most cases, what I do when someone does that is I just smile. Because I know that everybody's got their own cross to bear. Everybody goes through life with their own glasses, their own vision, their own perspective. And I know, from my standpoint, what role I played in that situation. And I understand perception is viewed differently by everyone. Everyone has their own perception. It's a free country, and they have the opportunity to share that opinion with those around them. When I'm in front of somebody who insults me, criticizes me, or otherwise harms me verbally, smiling, nodding my head, and just moving on, because I understand this too shall pass. Ms. Tabletopics Master.
Thank you. I'm glad that you said you didn't reply in kind. Before I came to Toastmasters, if my husband said, "You're fat and ugly," I'm going, "You're bald and ugly, and I can lose weight, and you can't grow hair." And I realized that doesn't make you feel more loving. So thank you for having a different approach and sharing that. We now will go into our first speech of the day, our prepared speech, and Rick Barron will be speaking from the an advanced manual, the Persuasive Speaking Manual, and he will be doing the cold call, knocking on someone's door and doing a cold call. Let us welcome Rick Barron. Cold call, Rick Barron.
Thank you, Carol. What's the worst sales experience you've ever had to suffer through? Were you on the buying side or the selling side of that experience? For the majority of people, the worst sales experience is typically the cold call. The salesperson that contacts you trying to sell their product or service. The sales process has typically 5 steps: need, recognition, search, evaluation, and decision. The cold call takes the first 3 of those hostage because in many cases, the buyer doesn't even know they're in the market. Doesn't even know. So it's a little bit different. And in most cases, they're selling something that's a high-ticket item. Not something that's easy to, would you like to buy this candy bar from this Girl Scout or these cookies for $1 or a couple of bucks? That's easy. But when they're selling something that costs significantly more money, the sales process gets a little more complicated. And that decision process typically takes days or even months to conclude. The cold call is best handled when the seller gently encourages the buyer to realize themselves that they have a need or unmet desire. And it's typically done through questioning, where they ask how and what questions. By asking questions, that seller is able to guide the conversation more like an education process, not the hard sell that you may have experienced in that reflective memory that I asked about earlier. Asking those questions then allows that sales professional to position themselves as the likely solution to be able to take care of that need that was just discovered. The sales professional should be a resource to the buyer. Not the hard pressure sell, but someone who's there to provide information and to solve a solution, which is best done through credibility. Someone who comes across as honest, open, realistic, showing a genuine concern for the buyer, as well as staying in contact and fulfilling the promises that they've made. In the sales process, there are typically objections. And if the sales professional is selling a product or service that is known to have some concern or issues, it's best to bring those up front, to address them right away, because the buyer may have heard about this product or service and be wondering in the back of their mind, well, what about this cost thing I've heard about? What about this service thing I've heard about? Professionals should address those up front. And when the buyer does bring up concerns or issues, they should be handled with caution, because most cases all they're doing is seeking more information. It's not about proving why you're right, it's about understanding the current situation and what data was not shared. In conclusion, the best way to follow up is to make sure at the end of that meeting or presentation that each person is aware of the role that they provide or the follow-up that they have to make sure that the transaction can conclude in a timely manner. The cold call. How do we make it a more pleasurable experience for both people? We're about to see how that will work in a simulated situation where I will be selling home improvement services to Carol Kormelink. Carol, would you come up and join me so we can get our cold call started?
You want me on this side or your side?
It doesn't matter which side.
I-
Which side do you prefer?
Yeah.
Okay. We've all been in situations where someone comes knocking on our door asking if they can sell us doors, windows, or other home improvement products. And in most cases, it's typically a miserable experience where you're trying to chase somebody off of your front porch because you just don't want them. And that is the situation that I chose today to try to illustrate with Carol about how that process could be improved to make it a better interaction on both sides. Carol?
So, yeah, knock on my-
I will pretend to knock on your door, yes. Knock, knock, knock.
What do you want?
Hi, Carol. Oh, I don't know who your name is, sorry.
Yeah, what do you want?
Hi, my name is Rick Barron. I'm with the XYZ Home Improvement Company. I'm out in the area today looking for homeowners to see if they qualify for our free bonuses.
I
Are you
wouldn't be
interested?
No, I wouldn't be interested. Thank
Not
you.
at all. Pretty short interview, Carol.
Well, you gotta say, wait.
I don't know how to drag you back when you run away from the door.
No, I'm still have the door open. I didn't slam it on you yet.
Oh.
I just said I wouldn't be interested.
You're not interested because of what?
Well, I don't know what you're selling for one thing.
Well, I'm not selling anything. I'm just here to see if you qualify for one of our bonuses or free offers.
Well, a free offer is going to cost me.
At some point in time, you're right. If you choose to make a decision, we are in business to make money, but that's not why I'm here. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm out in the neighborhood today looking for homeowners that might qualify for our program. Is that something you could give me 5 minutes of your time to see if that's something would work?
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your time today. I can see from the outside of your home and what I've seen from the inside of the home that it's very well maintained. How long have you been in this home?
56 years.
Really? You're the original owner?
Right.
Outstanding. You've done a wonderful job here with this home. Is there something that you're most proud of with your home?
It fits me. I like it. My husband kept everything in the best of shape. I never had a leaky faucet or a squeaky door, and so I kind of miss that. He's been gone since '08,
Okay.
so it's not maintained the way it was.
So you've had some challenges recently since he's passed
Right,
away.
right.
Yep, I could understand that. That would be hard to do if he took care of so much for you. Yeah.
And he didn't let me help him, so I resented that I don't know how to do stuff because he never let me help him, because women's work and men's work, never the twain shall meet, and didn't I have work to do inside if I went out to try to help him?
Understand. 56 years, you've had to do some upgrades over that time. You
He
mind
did.
if I go through my checklist and just kind of see what you've done over, I mean, roof? Have you put a new roof on the house?
Right.
How long
Several
ago was
times.
the roof put on?
Well, that's our second new roof.
Okay.
Probably within the last 10 years.
Okay, that's good. What about windows? Have the windows been replaced?
Yes,
When was the last time the windows were
a
replaced?
long time ago.
Has
And
it been a long time?
They're too heavy now. They're triple pane. They're too heavy for me to lift out. I
Oh.
can't get them cleaned the way I used to.
Okay. Do they tip out or not for you to be able
No,
to?
I have to slide them and lift them up and take them out of the track.
Wow, does sound
And
pretty.
they're heavy. I almost
yeah.
dropped
Are they
my-
wood or metal? Do you know?
the edges are plastic.
Plastic?
Well, I don't
Okay,
know what they
and they're-
are.
And
I
they're
don't know if
still
they're
that heavy. Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting to
Well, they're
know.
triple pane.
All right. What about the doors? Have you replaced the entry doors?
Yes.
Have you had to do? It looks like the concrete work is in good shape. Have you had to redo the concrete
Yes,
at all?
Yes.
So it looks like it's in good shape.
Yeah, he
right?
did everything. He did PM, preventive maintenance.
Okay, outstanding. Okay, let's go back to the windows. If there was one thing you could change about the windows, what would you change?
I'd have windows that I could take out because I like to thoroughly clean, and I can't get under the tracks, and there's some little bugs that crawl under the tracks outside and lay their eggs, and then when I try to clean them out, the water goes through their egg cases, and it comes out, and it drips down my front of my house and looks like tobacco juice.
Oh, that is
So
kinda-
I'd like to get rid of those windows, but are you selling windows?
That is one of the products that we sell. I would like a little bit more information. So the energy, you said you have triple pane windows now, correct?
Right.
Is the energy efficiency important to you of those windows?
I don't know.
Okay, not
My
sure.
husband took care of all that kind of stuff.
Got it, right. If you replaced the windows and your heating or air conditioning bill went up, you probably wouldn't be happy with that.
No,
Is
I
that
would
true?
not be happy with
I
that.
understand. Okay, I understand.
And they have to be pretty, and they have to be easy to take in and out for cleaning.
So color to match, to make sure that they fit. They need to be lightweight so that you can manipulate them easily, pop in and out quickly so that they're easy to clean, to be able to get into the track.
And I
Understand
want
that?
slide, I don't want any winders.
Oh, something, so windows that go up and down?
Right.
Would you
Or
want to be
sliding back and forth.
back and forth? Would you want to be able to have both panes move at the same time so that you could have the top and the bottom open, or just the bottom open?
Just the bottom probably.
Just the
is what I
bottom?
need.
Okay, so the air
Right
circulation
now,
through
they
that's not
slide
important?
sideways, and I can slide both of them at once to the middle if I want.
Okay, well, that's
You'll notice
interesting.
that my big picture window doesn't move, just the panes on the side.
Okay, great. And just for a mental count, I didn't get a chance to walk around the house. Do you know how many windows there would be?
Probably 10.
10? Okay. Well, let me go take a look through my,
10.
it looks like you would qualify for the bonus on the windows.
Oh, I thought I would.
The minimum is 5, and what we do is we have a buy one, get one free offer, where if you buy one window, you get the second window free. So 5 windows would mean that you could get 5 for free by replacing 5 of the windows that you currently have right now.
Wow.
Is that something that you'd be interested in exploring a little bit further?
Sounds good.
Good. Do you have time now for me to come in and sit down and show them to you? Or would you like me to reschedule a time when we could do that?
No, you could do that now.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll go back out to my truck and I'll grab a sample case and I'll come back in and sit down, Carol, and we'll see if we can find something that works out for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll be back in a minute.
Nice meeting you. Are we finished?
We are finished. Thank
Okay.
you.
I didn't want to make it easy on you.
The start wasn't as easy as I'd hoped. No. This portion of my speech is an evaluation, really, in helping me understand what went well and what could have been improved. Of the things that I talked about initially, what did you see that I was able to do to engage Carol? Anybody? Richard?
Well, once you got in the door, you were able to engage her by talking about maintenance on the house, what she'd done. She mentioned her husband had taken care of everything, and so you used that to discuss, well, since you aren't familiar with it, can you tell me what you do know? And then you tailored it to what she'd like to see, what was convenient for her, instead of talking about what needs to be fixed.
Essentially, Richard, asking questions to probe for information, and then looking to see what kind of needs that are unmet needs that she might have.
Excellent restatement.
Thank you.
What I noticed was that you were more concerned in my needs than in your sale.
More concerned with, Carol says that it appeared that I was more concerned with her needs than I was in selling windows or doors or any kind of product. It was really about how can we make sure that you get something that works for you.
That's what I felt. William.
Empathy, William says. Thank you. Did it feel like a cold call experience that she would shut the door and say, boy, that home improvement guy, I'm going to call my neighbor and tell her to hide so that she doesn't have to go through that? I hope not, right? And that's really what the cold call should be about. How can you serve as a resource to the people who are on the other side of the door? Because when we fill their need, they will call their friends, their family members, their relatives, and say, you know what? I wasn't in the market for windows, but this nice young gentleman came to my house and helped me understand how I could relieve the back pain that I have trying to manhandle these windows that we've got. And she'll be excited about replacing something that she never knew she needed. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you very much, Rick.
Name an effective political leader in history who couldn't speak well.
I take pride in the word
There aren't any.
Because when it comes to a disease
Freedom
like breast
requires
cancer,
leadership,
there are
and
no
leadership
political
requires
parties.
oratory. You have to speak to be heard.
I have a dream.
It's all about personal growth and guts.
Never give in. Never, never, never.
Welcome to our show, Toastmasters Tonight. My name is Rick Barron, and I'm your host. Today, we have the privilege of interviewing Miss Carol Kormelink on the topic, maintaining weight loss discipline. Carol, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me to be your guest.
Carol, weight loss is a big question for a lot of people these days. How is it that you've become such an expert on it?
I don't know that I'm an expert on maintaining, but I can lose weight. I've probably lost the same 10, 20, 30 pounds 100 times over the last 60 years.
Okay.
And what I'm struggling to maintain is the weight loss, the discipline. I don't want to have to make those decisions. And that's one of the things that I'm seeking an answer for and trying to find other people who have resolved how to maintain their weight loss. And I believe I've read in some of the gossip magazines that you have maintained a weight loss.
I have, yes. Let's roll back a little bit and let's ask about the discipline associated with the weight loss. What kind of discipline is necessary to lose the weight?
For me, the discipline that I used was I went on a very strict program, an HA2CG program where you were only allowed certain foods, 5 different fruits, different vegetables, 5 different meats, and you had to measure them, and you had to take the drops 4 times a day. I did that perfectly because I would not dare eat 1 crumb off the program because I might have gained 5 pounds overnight. That discipline, as soon as I lose my weight, it's as if I'm released from jail and I eat everything that doesn't eat me. I don't feel deprived on the program, so I can't quite figure out why I'm too lazy or don't want to make those decisions that were easy to do when I was losing the weight.
Okay. It sounds to me like what works for you in weight loss is having a prescribed plan, something that you can follow step by step. And it sounds like with, at least in the diet that you just described, with limited choices. Is that correct?
Right.
But during that time frame, you really don't feel deprived?
Not at all. You're never hungry. If you're hungry, there's something the matter. You're not doing the program right.
Okay.
And you don't necessarily have to exercise. And some of the myths that I've been reading on the internet is that it's a myth that you have to exercise to lose weight, because some of the websites say that you can actually gain weight by exercising, that it stops you, it prevents your loss. So there's a lot of myths out there, and actually anything that you want to believe, there's something on the internet to support that
I'm
belief.
sure there is, absolutely. Yep. While you were on this diet, it sounds like you were fulfilled. You were never really hungry?
Right.
Okay.
And I even took my foods to the restaurant. I went to some nice restaurants and took my foods in my little container. And because I was with other people, I figured that was okay. And the manager came over and I said, yeah, I have a food allergy.
Allergic to expensive food, right?
No, I just said junk food. But he said, oh, that looks like chicken. I'm going, yes. And he said, and that looks like oranges. And I said, yes. And he said, and that looks like celery. I said, yes. And that was my meal. And it was very satisfying because it gave me something to crunch on. And the other person was having the restaurant meal. So I feel really good that I was able to maintain and didn't have a problem there on doing the task.
Until the goal is achieved.
Right.
Then once the goal is achieved, you, like many of us, struggle with keeping the weight off.
Right. I used to be a Weight Watcher lecturer, and I had 100-pound losers, and I almost cried when they would come back and they put all that 100 pounds back on.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it that they worked so hard and did that. And
Yet that's the same thing that you've struggled with over
Right.
time, is putting the weight back on over and over and over again. Well, let me ask you a question. The discipline that you use to lose the weight, why not apply the same discipline to maintaining?
That's my question. In fact, one of our Toastmaster members, he said, there are two kinds of integrity. There's outer integrity and there's inner integrity. And outer integrity, if I tell you I'm going to do something, you can rely on me. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, I may do it or I may not do it. And I thought, daggone you, I thought I had good integrity, and I find out with myself, it's not all that good. And that was, I'm working through that right now, that if I say, yes, you're going to do this, instead of saying, no, I don't need to do it now, I'll do it later. I'm a procrastinator.
Okay. And over the 60 years, have there been a few things that you've identified during that maintenance period that you would say have worked for you?
Well, it was in Weight Watchers, if you are within 2 pounds of your goal weight, you never have to pay Weight Watchers again. And I was never going to pay Weight Watchers again. And after 8 years of being the lecturer, as soon as I quit, I put all my weight back. And my manager said, she wondered what happened. I'm going, well, I like eating, and I don't mind being this weight. That's okay. And then I had lost weight again. She said, what's this that you like the way you were? And I'm going, well, I really don't like bigger sizes.
So paying, that was one thing that worked for you. Having a club that you attended on a regular basis, a group of people who were
Discipline.
doing similar thing, that provided the accountability maybe
Right.
to stay on the program.
I guess that's what I'm seeking to close the accountability gap, the gap between intentions and results. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Is there another group potentially that you could join that would allow you to have that accountability?
I haven't found one yet that I'd be willing to spend the time doing, because it does take time and effort.
Okay.
And I sort of, when I get up, even if I have a plan of what I'm going to do, now today I followed my plan of what I was going to have for breakfast, a smoothie. But even when it's written out and I have it planned, I'm going, I don't feel like doing that today.
Life gets in the way, right?
Perhaps. We
I
got the red
understand
light.
how that works. Yep. Well, as you can see, this is a challenge that we will probably continue to debate, analyze, and negotiate for another 60 years. And that is, how do we keep it off once we lose it? Thank you for joining us on Toastmasters tonight. My name is Rick Barron, and my guest, Carol Kormelink. Have a good day.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
Welcome back. We now go to the feedback portion of our meeting where we will be introducing the evaluators. I am the general evaluator, and then I will, after we get the reports, I will give my summation of the meeting today. And I'd like to start with our first evaluator today. Melanie Jones-Gant is going to be evaluating Rick's speech. Let us welcome Melanie.
Madam Toastmaster. The cold call, a very, very hard topic. I liked the topic. It's a very hard subject. And I thought your questions to your customer were very effective. In the first part, since there were 3 parts of it, the first part when you explained the topic, you had great eye contact with the audience. You had a great demeanor. I, however, got a little lost on your list. I know that there were 5 pieces of a cold call, and I heard you list them, but when we got into the explanation, I personally got a little lost on which one we were on. I think using an example during that first part might have made it a little easier to understand, even if it was just a very brief scenario to help me connect with what the topic was. Second part was speaking to actually doing the scenario for the cold call, which I thought you were very effective. But I think the example of how to get in the front door, obviously you even mentioned it yourself, was a little less effective. And I think that conversation may be an area that you might want to strengthen if you were doing it for a bigger audience, because I think that that's probably the hardest piece, because you have to get the person to listen to you. I'm not effective at cold calling, so I can't give you suggestions on specifically how I would do that. But once you engaged her, I think you did a wonderful job of showing your empathy, using your, showing your concern, showing your empathy, and I think that that was very effective. I don't really have any suggestions once you connected with her, other than maybe eye contact and body language. Because you're entering an area where people don't necessarily know you, but obviously we have a small stage, so that's a little harder. Eye contact and friendliness and open gestures might be something you want to research if you were to make more suggestions. I thought the ending was very effective. I think you maintained good rhythm and eye contact in the conclusion, so I don't really have a lot of suggestions for that. Overall, I think it was a great presentation. My main suggestions are more smoother transitions in the beginning for more maybe a scenario, and then more effective use with your individual person of how to connect with them to have them keep the door open, because I think, at least for me, that would be the hardest part, to actually step outside my comfort zone. But overall, it was a great speech, and I look forward to seeing more. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you very much. Our next evaluator is our guest, Paula Dawes, and if she's going to be evaluating the speech that Rick and I did with Rick. Let's welcome Paula Dawes.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Carol, could you sit over here, please?
Sure.
Thank you. That way I can look at everybody and you at the same time. Your speech was very enlightening. I love the way that you talked back and forth. One of the things that I would like to see, should you do this again, or maybe for a longer period of time, you talked about HACG2. I got lost in what that was, and so I caught myself thinking about what was that, and I kind of lost what else you were talking. So I would have liked you to said what it was, and then what that related to, and then go on to tell me about what you would have eaten, because that would have, and quite honestly, I am a Weight Watcher for many, many years, and so I'm honing right in on what Carol's talking about. I'm listening to the food and what she's eating, and as far as that went, that was good. But that would have helped me as I was looking at it. Also, your myths on the internet I thought was interesting, and it is so appropriate, because you can back any question that you want up there. I did not feel that you blandished in any way. Thought you were very honest out there with us. Exercise and gaining weight is true. If you exercise, you may gain weight. What you could have also brought in then was a little bit more facts about that. That would have helped me as well as to why, because you're gaining muscle mass. I do a lot of walking, and you could have even brought in, when you talked about your weight loss, I didn't exercise at all, and I lost 22 pounds, and here's how I did it. Again, as a Weight Watcher person, I'm honing in on exactly what you're talking about. I thought your banter back and forth with Rick was very appropriate. Rick asked really good questions. I liked the way, actually, is when he asked the first question, you turned it right back on him and said, well, that's not really what I was going to talk about. And you turned the topic, which on a show where someone is asking you questions, you have to be able to turn it when you're not ready to answer that, or there's something else you really would rather talk about. So I appreciate that. I thought you did a very good job on that. On the bigger sizes as to why you don't want to keep up, that was good. It's a good visual for me. And I really liked where you brought in the person that had lost 100+ pounds and then came back and had put it all back on. For a lot of people, 100 pounds obviously is a lot of weight, but you and I are about the same height. Actually, I'm taller, so I was pretty excited about that. But that 30 pounds is a lot more to us than it is to a lot of other people. And so it is tragic when you put it all back on. It was so hard to work. Overall, I thought you did a very good job. And I am looking forward to the next time that you're going to be speaking on Rick's Talk Show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that good listening that you did and bringing out things, help me find some more things. Our next report will be from our all-counter grammarian on how well did we use Blandish today, Richard Gant. And he's also a timer, so he'll be doing the timer report too. Thank you for bringing that.
Thank you. So, I'll start with the times. I have no idea how well I did personally on Word of the Day. I wasn't timing it, and I forgot to write it down, unfortunately, when Melanie told me what I did. So we'll skip that part. For table topics, Paula, you did 1 minute 34 seconds. I did 1 minute and 20 seconds, and Rick, you did 1 minute and 24 seconds. Everybody was nicely in the range of 1 to 2 minutes. For Rick's speech, this was a little problematic because the 3 different parts had 3 different times. The opening portion of the speech was 3 to 4 minutes. Then there was a brief transition. Then the main body of the speech was 5 to 7 minutes, and the closing was 2 to 3 minutes. The opening was either 4.5 minutes or 5.5 minutes because I wasn't sure where the transition started. So either just barely squeaked in on time or you went about a minute over. Either way, if I couldn't tell where the transition was, it was probably a good transition, so I'm not too concerned about that. The rest of the speech was dead on time. The main body was 6 minutes 30 seconds, which was nicely in the middle between 5 and 7 minutes. And the closing was 2 minutes and 40 seconds, so at 2 to 3 minutes, that was perfect. Evaluators, Melanie, you did 3 minutes exactly. I clicked it to red just as you wrapped up. Paula, you did 2 minutes 48 seconds, so exactly where we're supposed to be in that 2 to 3 minute range. As far as grammarian goes, Word of the Day was used 3 times that I noticed. Twice by Carol, once by Paula. There was in Rick's speech, I noticed there was some excellent use of repetition. You said, if I can read my own handwriting here, which doesn't always happen. Oh, the word don't even know. You said you're there because you're providing a service they don't even know they need. Pause for a second. Don't even know. I like that. It helped drive that point home without overwhelming the audience. You're also very comfortable with the use of silence. You'd make a point. You'd stop for a second, let it sink in. As I know from personal experience, it is easy to just ramble on and try to fill up empty time. On to the awe count. Everybody awed and ummed. Rick did it once that I heard, which was pretty good since I think you spoke for the entire meeting. Carol, I caught 3 times, all during the interview portion. I only noticed myself once, but I'm not guaranteeing that was the only time I did it. Melanie, I counted 7. And Paula, I counted 3. we all demonstrated a lot of double stop usages of words. Things like I lost, or at least she, they. Everybody did that. I didn't really count, but we all did it in the extemporaneous portions of the presentations. The prepared speeches, I didn't catch anything in there, but when we were speaking off the cuff, we did that. Thank you. Madam
Thank
Toastmaster.
you very much, Richard. I am impressed. Wow. As the sum up of the meeting as a whole, I really enjoyed this meeting. The thing that impresses me so much, I was a speaker and not a listener. And the listening skills that I heard here today and the thinking skills, Paula, that was just fantastic. I liked everything going on at the meeting, the reports. You listened so well. I was quite impressed. One of the things with Melanie as the evaluator, I really didn't find anything that I could have added to your evaluation. You told Rick what he did well and gave him some suggestions on what he might do better the next time, and then you ended with his strengths, which is what an evaluation is all about, encouraging. And Paula, that was great encouragement for me of what you had done with the speech and pointing out some things. And I never thought, in fact, I was debating whether or not to mention the HA2CG program as specific. HA2CG, it's the pregnancy hormone where you burn up your fat, you get rid of this tire, your muffin top. And that's what I liked about that. And it was so easy to do. And I was quite impressed with your grammarian report. You really had on your listening ears. Very good. I enjoyed the meeting. I would like to hear comments from our guests. And Paula, since you're the closest one, and I'll be asking the other two guests, if you'd like to come up and give us your opinion of the meeting here. You must be a seasoned Toastmaster. You did so well.
Not seasoned, but I was president of my club for a year and a half. And what happens after a year and a half of 52 times getting up and talking, you're pretty comfortable by the time you get done. And so you're always introducing the Toastmaster that comes up. I thought the presentation today went well. It is interesting to see how a club does with extra incentive in the back to keep an eye on you. And it is nice to be able to know that I can go home tonight and actually look at what I did and see where I can improve, because we always can improve, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here today. But overall, I was really impressed. It's a good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And do come back. I will this again. And you won't see this tonight, but they do send you a DVD eventually.
All right.
Our next guest that we had was Paul Staley. If Paul, he even brand new person, and he came in and was willing to run a camera. Whoops, I forgot. Don't pound on the lectern. This is the long and the short of it.
It's like Ed and Anthony, right? Except you're better looking though, Carol. So I really enjoyed the conversation. It was fun operating a camera for the first time. You guys did a great job as far as the presentations go. It's my first event like this, so overall it was interesting, trying to step out my comfort zone a little bit here as well. So it was, all in all, it was a great experience. So thank you guys.
Thank you. We do hope that you will come back. Thank you very much, Paul. And then William, if you would like to come up and tell us your opinion of the meeting, let us welcome William Asayu.
My name is William Ayasu. I'm a student at Wilmington College. Of course, I work at CMHA. And part of my assignment was to attend a Toastmaster meeting, which I did. And eventually, I will become a member because it's a very interesting experience. So I'm looking forward to do my best and keep coming here every Saturday as much as I can. Soccer season is around the corner. I coach one of my children's team, so we'll have games on Saturday, so I might not be able to come, but as long as my schedule permits, I will be more than happy to come here.
Thank you very much. Wait. We always return control of the lecterns. That part of the protocol in Toastmasters is you never leave the lectern unattended. You always return control of the lectern to the person, usually with a handshake. And one of the things, I don't know if you noticed, if they came this way rather than having to cross in front or behind them, I exited the stage that way. If they came from this direction, I exited the stage that way so I didn't have to cross in front or behind them. With that, I will return control to our presiding officer, Rick Barron. Let us welcome Rick Barron, Advanced Communicator, Bronze, and Advanced Leader, Silver.
Thank you, Carol. Well, what'd you think? If you came in towards the tail end of the meeting, you missed a doozy. We had a great meeting today, and it's a testament to how a group of dedicated people can come together to help each other grow. That's what Toastmasters is all about. We come here to watch ourselves grow, to lift one another up, and to help each other achieve those things that they desire. If you're interested in getting a little bit of what we have, come visit us at the Anderson Center the first Thursday of the month at 6 p.m., the third Saturday of the month at 9 a.m. We're at 7850 5 Mile Road. You can learn more about us at www.tvtoastmasters.com. That's www.tvtoastmasters.com. Thank you for everybody that participated in the studio today. And for those of you out there, we look forward to seeing you here soon. That concludes the July 19th, 2014 meeting of TV Toastmasters.
Thank you very much. And now for our next speaker, Stanley Glitchner.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.